altar of grace.
New Jersey. My name is Sharon Epen, and today we're going to be talking about emotional fuel and avoiding burnout. Just to preface our video, I'm going to be talking about burnout in different ways, and they're going to be pretty interchangeable. Empty tank or empty cup. These are different things, two different analogies that I'll use pretty interchangeably throughout this video. So if you get confused, I'm talking about the same thing. Empty tank, empty cup, burnout. Those are all referred to the same things for the purposes of this video. So I've said the word a few times already, burnout. What comes to mind when I say the word burnout? Pay attention to whatever emotions or feelings come up, whatever experiences you're reminded of. And as you hear these things, these experiences, I want you to take note of how it's going to help you or prevent you from engaging with today's workshop. I think it's important to know our entry posture so we can fully engage with what the Lord has for us. So I'm going to give us a minute, 1 minute or two, and we're going to go ahead and fill out those questions. How have you experienced burnout? What situations come to mind, and how is that going to impact the way you engage with today's workshop?
I lay my heart on an altar of grace. So clearly now I see your face, with eyes that burn with your love for me. You call me child, you set me free. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. My mouth will sing of your endless grace. My hands will rise as I give you praise. Oh, these feet will go where you tell them to. You call me child, I run to you. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things.
So when I hear the word burnout, I think back to about a year ago. I was actually in this room, and I was unable to move. I was so weak, I was dizzy, and I was nauseous all at the same time. And that day, my husband and I were having guests over, and I so badly wanted to entertain them, cook, and have fun, watch movies. And I sat down on my couch, and my husband says, I was so tired that he thinks I slept for about 7 hours straight in the middle of the day. So like not even at night. And I don't remember much about that day. I remember like little glimpses of my friends cooking, cleaning, and helping with my daughter while I was passed out on the couch. But I only really remember saying hi to a full house and then waking up to an empty house in the afternoon. And this is the picture that comes to me when I think about burnout, because it came after a weekend of working so hard. I had said yes to things at church, to things at work, for my families and friends, and I kept on doing and doing and doing and doing until I had nothing left to give. Everything that I was experiencing emotionally and mentally, spiritually, was coming out physically when I couldn't move. And when I think back to that time, I actually have a lot of shame I had shame thinking about how I couldn't handle it all, how I couldn't handle everything that I was saying yes to. I'm not Superwoman. And that's actually a good thing, right? As leaders, we are not called to be superwomen and men. Instead, we're called to say yes to Jesus and what he's inviting us to. Brene Brown, in her book Dare to Lead, calls out 7 qualities of a good leader. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but I definitely think you should check them out. But out of the 7, there's one that she refers to as reliability. A reliable leader does not overpromise or overcommit. I did both those things. I overpromised and I overcommitted. I didn't know what to say yes to. I didn't take an inventory of my capacity. And at the end of the day, it turns out I was running on an empty tank. I wasn't saying yes to all the things that Jesus had for me. I was saying yes for all of the wrong reasons. And what that led to me doing was running on an empty tank. What does it mean to have an empty tank? You know, I spoke to a friend last week and we were talking about our engagement and our action in response to the pandemic and racial injustice through the killing of Black men and women in our country. And as we were having this conversation, I began to outline everything I wanted to do. And my friend, while he was really excited with me, he also told me something he had been telling me since our freshman year of college. He said, Sharon, you cannot pour from an empty cup. I was off because what I was telling him beforehand was some of the ways I felt emotionally and physically drained. And his reminder to me was, hey Sharon, you cannot pour from an empty cup. I was at the risk and at the brink of burnout. So what does that mean? What is burnout? What causes burnout? How do we avoid it? And what does this have to do with emotional fuel, right? Well, when I think about burnout, I think about 2 things. I think about time and I think about people. Time we talked about over the past 2 extra credits in maximizing your summer and creating the rule of life. Sometimes we do not prioritize our time well. And more than anything, it takes a toll on our relationship with God. Sometimes when we don't prioritize our time, things like spending time with Jesus and the people around us come all the way down here in our priorities when they should be pretty high up. But our excuse is always, I don't have time. So that's the first thing I think contributes to burnout. The second thing I think contributes to burnout is people. And because we talked about it in our last 2 extra credits, I think today we should talk a little bit more about the role people play in our emotional fuel and in avoiding burnout. So people. Leadership means that you're working with people. Ministry is people. There are different roles people play in our lives, right? Think about friendship. If you were to think about individuals as 2 cups of water, friendship means that we pour a little bit into each other's cup when we share our needs, we talk about our families, we do fun things together. This is friendship. We give and we take. And so we don't lose much water. Leadership looks a little bit different. Most times when we lead, we pour out a little bit into a lot of people's cups. And even though we might get a little from the people that we lead, through great conversations, through good Bible studies, through little nuggets of wisdom that the people that we lead give us, there's often not enough to fill our cups back up. And when we start to pour out and pour out and pour out, eventually we're going to have an empty tank. And I believe that that's not what God wants from us. I don't think it's a good stewardship of our leadership to be pouring out of empty cups. But I do think it's necessary to inventory, where are we right now? Take a second and go to the worksheet and tell us how full or how empty your cup is.
So clearly now I see your face, with eyes that burn with your love for me. You call me child, you set me free. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me.
Okay, welcome back. So some of you are full, and that's great. This is going to be a really helpful webinar on coaching people in your life that feel like they're running on empty. Some of you drew a line way below the glass, and that's okay too. We trust that God's invitation to you will be to grow. There's no quick fix, and some of us are in between. That's great. Let's learn together how to attend to our emotional fuel. Like I said before, tending to our emotional fuel means tending to our relationships. This requires that we move towards emotional health. It requires that we don't avoid our emotions, but we engage with them and what God might be using them to tell us. It requires that we stop. And it might feel like you don't have the capacity to stop. And that's where the 2 past extra credits will come in handy. So you might need to go to those after you watch this video. But they'll help us engage with our time and allow us to find the spaces and places where we can stop and engage with our own emotional health, as well as dig deeper into our relationship with God, especially through the rule of life. Let's look at our relationships in 2 ways. First, our relationship with God. We need a vibrant spiritual life to fuel our leadership. An unhealthy leader relies on superficial spirituality, but we long for strong communion with Jesus to be the basis of our leadership and mission on campus. Secondly, we need relationships with others. This means we need women and men in our lives that will fill up our tanks. We need relationships that will replenish our emotional fuel. We need more than just friendships, because friendships are great, but they do not always challenge us to grow or keep us accountable. And on the other hand, throughout Scripture, God invites us to lead and disciple others. A lot of you are watching this video because of that invitation to lead and disciple others. Let's pause here. Why do you lead? Some of us lead because we feel a calling from God. We feel compelled to lead His people into new life. We feel compelled to join in His mission to reach the 1.2 million students across New York and New Jersey. And if others of us take an honest look about why we lead because we need validation or flattery. We need encouragement or someone to say, hey, you're doing a good job. We lead because we need self-fulfillment. But the truth is, we cannot lead if leadership is just fulfilling a need for us. If we lead out of a personal need, we'll run out of fuel really quickly. We'll run out of our emotional fuel. You'll forget the needs of the community you're leading, and you'll begin to lead people into fulfilling your own personal needs rather than the needs of your community. So check in. Why are you leading? Ask the Lord to convict and reorder your thinking so that you are leading from a place of holy discontent and not a place of self-fulfillment. Okay, let's go back. What do our relationships with others need to look like so that we can have emotional fuel and avoid burnout? So we can have full tanks. Dr. Tim Elmore, who actually a lot of our learning comes from, reminds us that our character and our relationships are closely linked. They impact one another. If we're emotionally drained or experiencing burnout, we're likely to see an impact on our relationships. For example, when I'm emotionally drained, I usually don't check in with people that I lead as much. I don't follow up or follow through in some of my commitments. In general, it negatively impacts my relationships. On the other hand, if your relationships are not healthy, they're likely to impact your character negatively as well. Let's pause here. Take a mental check of the relationships you have in your life. What activities do you do in these relationships that fill your emotional tank or drain your emotional tank? Or are there relationships that do both? Take a second and be honest about the ways your relationships impact your life.
I lay my heart on an altar of grace. So clearly now I see your face. With eyes that burn with your love for me. You call me child, you set me free. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me.
Welcome back. It seems pretty evident that in our lives we need different people to help us fill our emotional tank. We recommend a balanced set of relationships that have clear boundaries on what role people play in your lives in order to keep a balanced emotional tank. There are 6 groups of people that we recommend that every person has. 1. Models. People who do what you'd like to do. 2. Mentors. People who coach you and invest their time in you. 3. Heroes. People who you'll look up to and admire. 4th is partners. People who travel with you and hold you accountable for your goals. They're working alongside of you. 5th, your inner circle. Those people who are closest to you. They're like your family. And 6th, your mentees. They're people that you disciple, that learn from you, maybe people on your team. Take a second. So go ahead and fill out who are your models, mentors, heroes, partners, inner circle, and mentees. So take a few minutes and do that.
I lay my heart on an altar of grace. So clearly now I see your face. With eyes that burn with your love for me. You call me child, you set me free. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. My mouth will sing of your endless grace. My hands will rise as I give you praise. Oh, these feet will go where you tell them to. You call me child, I run to you. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me.
before we get started, why don't I share with you my list of these 6 groups of people. So from models, there are people in InterVarsity that I actually hold as my models, people that do what I would like to do. So people like Lindsay and Daniel or Sophia. Then I have mentors like Lisa, Swina, and that coach me and invest in my leadership all the time. Then I have heroes, people that I look up to, admire, include Brene Brown. If you know me pretty well, you know that I'm very inspired by the works of Martin Luther King Jr. and others like him. Partners, people that travel with me, are my friends Nina, Justine, my friend Steven. And then my inner circle, those are closest to me. Of course, my husband Jensen, my daughter Haley, my siblings, and my cousin Ashley and Justin. Those are people that are like family to me. And then mentees, people that learn from me. I think I have a few more in this category than probably others. And so I put 2, Sabrina and Celine, but I think there's some more in there. And I think taking an honest look at this helped me realize that I categorize a lot more people in mentees than I did in models. And so that helped me realize, hey, I need to integrate more or look for more people in my life that I need to look up to, that do what I would like to do, that I would have a model for how to move forward in my own leadership. I'd love for you to take a second and look at this list again and look for the gaps. Maybe you're noticing like, hey, things that cause my empty tank are that I don't have people that challenge me in my life. And I noticed that I don't have a lot of mentors. Maybe those are 2 things that are colliding. Or maybe this list is revealing to you some things that might fill your tank that you didn't know would fill your tank before.
I lay my heart on an altar of grace. So clearly now I see your face, with eyes that burn with your love for me. You call me child, you set me free. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. So amazed by the things you've done for me. My mouth will sing of your endless grace. My hands will rise as I give you praise. Oh, these feet will go where you tell them to. Child, I run to you. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me.
Welcome back. Let's take some time now to make a next step to decide what are the things that I'm going to do this week to help me avoid burnout and provide me with some emotional fuel. Who is that person, or what is that relationship that I want to form? And what are some next steps that I need to take? For example, do I need a mentor? If so, who am I going to ask to find one? And if I do already have someone in mind, how often do I want to meet with this person? What kind of questions do I need to ask? There might be a lot of next steps that come out of this video, but pick one. I'm learning that if you pick one next step and pursue it well, you're more likely to get it done than picking 4 next steps and pursuing it half-heartedly. So pick one next step, fill it out in your sheet.
I lay my heart on an altar of grace. So clearly now I see your face. With eyes that burn with your love for me. You call me child, you set me free. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. My mouth will sing of your endless grace. My hands will rise as I give you praise. Oh, these feet will go where you tell them to. You call me child, I run to you. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by the things you've done for me. I run like wildfire, set ablaze, so amazed by
As we
the
close
things
today's
you've
workshop, I
done.
do want to point you to some resources that would be helpful for you to grow in your leadership and that were helpful in designing this talk. First is Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. It was a great book in the formation of my leadership. Second, a lot of this material came from Habitudes by Dr. Tim Elmore, the first one. We'll link that below. Lastly, Emotionally Healthy Spirituality or Emotionally Healthy Leader are super helpful in figuring out, hey, what are the boundaries that you need between different types of leadership and relationships in your life. And so if you have an opportunity, I'll link those all below and you can go ahead and check those out. I'd love for you to grow in those areas this summer. And with that, thank you for joining us for Extra Credit, Emotional Fuel, and Avoiding Burnout. I hope you have a great day.